A week before I would put my son Tommy on this planet, I found out that my husband Stephen cheated on me. The man I thought I could trust most stabbed me in the back. And that was just before I faced the most challenging task of my life, a very difficult delivery. I was on my own. After giving birth, he casually walked over and wanted to hold his baby. Then I did this. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. I still couldn't believe that I had to face the birth of my baby by myself. After strenuous hours of labor, he finally came into the world healthy and happy. Seeing little Tommy made me the happiest woman on earth, so when my soon-to-be ex-husband barged into the room demanding to hold his son, he had another thing coming. In my books, he was a cheater. Nevertheless, he declared that a father had the right to hold his son. Tommy apparently was the boy that would continue his family name. However, I knew that Stephen would stop dead in his tracks when I told him the secret I was withholding from him. As Stephen reached out, I pulled Tommy closer and locked eyes with Stephen, ready to unveil the truth. Our love story was like the pages of a fairy tale come to life. We used to live in our own little world of shared laughter, spontaneous trips, midnight dance sessions in our pajamas, and whispered promises under starlit skies. However, I should have seen the signs. We had been trying for a child for years, increasing the tension at home. This tension only made our time in the bedroom less spontaneous. I remember Stephen calling it a chore once. Nothing had hurt me more than the passion leaving our lives. At one point, I feared he just wasn't attracted to me anymore, especially when he asked something of me that shot my confidence. I believe the day he asked me if we could open the relationship for a short period was when it all started to crumble. I remember having to think about it, making a few bad decisions by telling my sister about this whole predicament, and being invited for a night out with her. Stephen had wanted me to say yes and believe that by going out, I would change my mind as I would see what an open relationship had to offer. I couldn't do it. He had a point. I did understand what it could mean after that night, but that was the exact reason why I shot him down. I thought it was just a hurdle we had to overcome, and that everything would return to its fairy tale beginning when I got pregnant. At first, it was ecstasy for Stephen and me when we finally saw the double lines on the pregnancy test. After so many negative tests, it was a beacon of light in the darkness. However, I should never have hoped that this little bundle of joy that grew inside me would save my marriage. You'd imagine what our child would be like, whose eyes he'd have, or whose stubbornness he would inherit. Our home was soon filled with soft lullabies, the scent of baby lotions, and freshly painted walls. Back then, it was a love that felt unbreakable, the bond between a U.S. meant to weather any storm. While Stephen took a prolonged shower that evening, I couldn't resist the urge to check his phone, something I had never done before. There was, hidden among various messages and work emails, a conversation with a name I didn't recognize. This night was magical, the message read. Can't wait to see you again. My heart stopped at this, and tears flowed freely down my face. I walked to the living room, waiting for Stephen to get out of his shower, necklace clutched in my hand. When he entered the room, I took a deep breath and held up the silver necklace. Do you recognize this? I asked as my voice trembled. Stephen's face went from surprise to confusion and then, for a beat too long, to a subtle hint of panic. Where did you find that? He managed to say. On your nightstand, I replied. It isn't mine. He seemed to hesitate. It must belong to one of your friends. I sighed. Stop, Stephen. I saw the messages on your phone. Who is she at my statement? Stephen's face crumbled. The jig was up. I didn't mean for this to happen, he began, tears forming. It was a mistake, he tried. A mistake, I echoed, a mistake. While preparing to welcome our child into this world, you betrayed us both. I took a breath. How long? It was only a few times between then and now, but it started after I asked you to open the relationship, he said softly. I gasped. I'm so sorry, lad. The stress of trying to get pregnant was too much for me to handle. And now with you pregnant, our life had stopped being intimate the way it used to be. He looked at my angry face and quickly continued. I love you so much and want to raise this child together. I'm sorry, but his apology fell on deaf ears. I need some time to think, I muttered. As Stephen stepped forward to console me, I put up a hand toward him. Alone, I continued. I need some time to think alone. He didn't seem happy about it, but he honored my wishes of wanting to be alone during this time. He left to stay with a friend, and I immediately made a call. I called my sister. When she answered, and I told her what had happened, she said she would be there in the morning. At this, I sighed with relief. My sister returned to town the following day and was already at my doorstep when it was bright and early. I was unsure of what I wanted. I mean, everyone made mistakes, right? I just wanted to return to more blissful times. My sister tried to visit me as often as possible, but she also had to work and sometimes even fly to a different state. Still, I appreciated her help and counsel. I decided at one point that I needed to see Stephen, but as I drove to his job, there I saw him. Unfortunately, he wasn't alone. There he stood, talking to a gorgeous woman. They stood closely together, her hand on his shoulder, in an intimate stance. I drove off, calling my sister. When she picked up, I said, "Get me a divorce lawyer." My sister obliged my request and told me not to get too worked up as it might trigger labor, but even with her warning, it wouldn't stop me. The worst thing happened. It started while my sister was away for work. My stress triggered the breaking of my water. I was rushed to the hospital as contractions began. I just wanted my sister, my passed-on mother, or hell, even Stephen would suffice. Instead, I brought Tommy into this world all by myself. Lay ahead. Holding Tommy in my arms after his birth was a bittersweet moment. The joy of welcoming our son into the world was marred by the knowledge of Stephen's infidelity. Just as I was starting to find some solace in the hospital room, the door swung open, and there stood Stephen. His presence was unexpected, and a whirlwind of emotions rushed through me. He apologized for his tardiness, but his words felt empty. I couldn't shake the image of him with that alluring woman at the restaurant. Stephen began to apologize and explain himself. He said he was genuinely remorseful and that he still loved me. After a long and agonizing internal struggle, I made a painful decision. I locked eyes with Stephen, tears streaming down my face, and uttered the words that hung heavily in the air. "I want you to leave." It was a difficult choice, but I knew it was necessary for him to understand the gravity of his actions. Without further words, Stephen turned and left the room, leaving me alone with my thoughts. As Stephen retreated from the room, I couldn't help but notice the pain etched across his face. It mirrored the anguish I had been carrying since discovering his infidelity. Once Stephen left, my sister and I had a heart-to-heart. I revealed the truth about the night Stephen and I went out after his request to open our relationship. My sister's unexpectedly understanding response reassured me that we all make mistakes, especially in turbulent times. She reminded me that honesty was the first step towards healing. My sister listened attentively, her support unwavering. My sister's compassionate reaction surprised me. She embraced me and said, "We all make mistakes, Laya. It's essential that you're being honest now. Let's face the truth and find a way forward." When Stephen returned to the room, I braced myself for his reaction to my confession. To my astonishment, he had a revelation of his own. He presented text messages as proof that he had ended the affair, putting an end to my doubts. Relief washed over me, mingled with gratitude and lingering guilt. Stephen explained that he had come to his senses and terminated the affair. He showed me the text messages evidence, demonstrating his commitment to rebuilding our relationship. As we sat in that hospital room, truths laid bare, Stephen made a heartfelt plea. He sought another chance, not just as Tommy's father, but as my husband. After deep contemplation, I recognized the love that still existed between you, us, and the challenging path ahead. The love Stephen and I had once shared was undeniable. Our history was filled with cherished moments and a connection that had once felt unbreakable. Amidst the chaos of our emotions, I couldn't help but consider the potential for a fresh start. Healing wasn't a linear journey. It was an emotional roller coaster, with ups and downs that left us dizzy. Slowly but surely, we began to bond as a family. Our shared moments of laughter, diaper changes, and sleepless nights brought us closer together. As time passed, I began to accept that sometimes even the most painful situations could be blessings in disguise. The turmoil we had faced had forced us to confront our shortcomings, and it had brought Stephen closer to Tommy, creating a unique bond that warmed my heart. As we reflected on our journey, we realized how far we had come. Our story was one of resilience and transformation. We had faced the darkest depths of betrayal and emerged with a newfound appreciation for the love we still shared. Reflecting on our journey allowed us to appreciate the distance we had traveled and the strength we had discovered within ourselves. Looking ahead, we saw a brighter future for our family. It was a future filled with hope, love, and the unwavering commitment to be the best parents we could be for Tommy. Our journey was far from over, but we faced it with hearts full of optimism and determination. A brighter future for our family was the beacon that guided us through the storms, reminding us of the love and possibilities that lay ahead.